we're really excited about being here. We spoke here last year, and it's just a great honor for me to be involved with Harbor House. The things that they do, the people that they impact, is just a great situation. I encourage you, if you haven't been by there, to get by there. Now, this thing with the 5,000 additional ducks, I consider that done, right? Yeah. We consider that done, all right? So I'd like to start by giving a shout out to my wife. I'll tell you what, I want to introduce her, Izetta Slade. She's my hero. And I always, when I talk with people, we talk about heroes. I always ask, who are your heroes, or who is your hero? And they start talking. I ask why. And this is going to sound a lot like the Harbor House. The big thing that they say over and over and over again is that I can count on them. That they are always there. Regardless to what's going on with me, they're there for me. I'd like for everyone, and first of all, I wanted to acknowledge the Harbor House as one of my heroes. And I'd like for everyone, just for a second, think about the heroes that are in your life. If that hero is here tonight, go greet them and say hello. Before I get started, man, I meet a lot of people as I go. I was at the University of Tennessee, and I met this guy, and there are a couple of categories, and I don't know if I shared this with you guys before, but the one category, you got what I call level 1 people. And level 1 people, they kind of know what they know that they don't know. And they will tell you, they'll say, "Coach, would you help me? I don't quite understand that." But then there are the level 2 guys. They don't know that they don't know, okay? And one of the young men at Tennessee, and I won't call his name out, but we were in Arkansas. We flew into Fayetteville, and we were going to drive over to the university to play a football game. And we went as we're driving through the countryside, we passed this alpaca farm, and as we're passing it, this guy gets up, and we had a young man from Arkansas on our team. He turns around and he says, "Reggie," he said, "Man, you guys got some messed up looking cows." Man, so wow, everybody's screaming, "Those are not cows." We had a trainer, Mr. Tim Kearns. Tim had been there at the university for a long time and passed away, and his obituary talked about him being an Irish American. Well, my man walks up and he says, "Man, dang it." He said, "All this time, I thought he was a white man." And so, I mean, this dude was he was constant all the time with that stuff. He was constant. So let's just get serious now, all right? This is also, this first one, about putting others in front of you is critical. We talked about the 5,000 ducks. Well, let me tell you a little story, and most of you guys know this story, and we're going to just say it in a different way, but it's like the parable of the Good Samaritan. The Jericho Road was a dangerous place. In fact, a long time ago, they called it the Bloody Path. And so here's this guy that's on the side of the road, that's, whether he's been attacked, but he's laying there and he's dying. He needs someone to help him. Well, the priest and the Levi walks up, and they see him there, and they just walk on by. They leave him, okay? And can you imagine those guys, what they're thinking? They're thinking that if I go over to help him, we could get robbed. The same thing that happened to him could happen to us. So they moved on. The Good Samaritan walks over, and as you guys know, he helped. See, he turned the question around. He said, what will happen to him if I don't help him? And I ask you guys that same question when you think about the Harbor House. What will happen to the Harbor House if you don't help it? And so that's the thing. And when I think about that with my parents, a great story, and I saw this happen. As we're growing up and we're living in the projects, I remember Mr. Towns and his wife had like 12 children. It got so, they started having so many children that they wouldn't tell people about it. And so here's my at the time, there were 6 of us living in the house, and I can remember my dad and my mom helping them. And you see, what they said is, we're trying to make it, but what will happen to the Towns family if we don't help them? And so that's the question. A lot of times it's what will happen to me if I help? What will happen to my pocketbook? What will happen to my budget if I help? That's not the issue. The issue is what will happen to them if I don't help them? Okay, so that was one of the first lessons. And then, another lesson that really impacted me, and again, my parents didn't come out and say, Larry, here's the lesson for the day. We're going to give you this, and we want you to take it with you for the rest of your life. No, that was not the way it happened. The way it happened was with their actions. Learn to live in your vision and not in your circumstance. And guys, let me tell you what. My dad had liver cancer. Not one time do I remember us feeling sorry or saying that dad's going to die or whatever, because he just kept on working. He kept on doing his thing. I can remember being with him. He had gone through a round of chemotherapy. In the second round, he went back in there, and the doctor's trying to convince him to do it again. And he looked at the doctor and says, no, I'm not doing this. He said, I want to live my life. I want to live my life. You see, he was living in his vision and not his circumstance. My mom had kidney failure, was dealing with dialysis. I can't ever remember her complaining about it. All I can remember is that smile. You see, she's my angel. And I can remember that smile. I can remember her going on about her business and doing her thing. Live in your vision and not in your circumstance. As you move through this thing, the thing that they did, they wanted us to be self-sufficient. They wanted to move, their vision was to move from the projects to home ownership. That was their vision. They wanted us to be self-reliant and all of that stuff. And again, so the next thing was they understood how to go about it. They were going to work at it. They were going to build what I call a discipline bridge. I want everybody in here just to imagine, just for a second, a bridge. You can look out there, you can see those bridges. And I refer to it as a discipline bridge, because what you have to do to get from your goals to your accomplishments, you got to build a bridge. You got to do the work. I think of out there's that river out there, and I think of people, that succeed and people that don't succeed. And it's like us all having these nice boats, and we're in the dock, and guess what? See, what my parents did, they got the boat out on the ocean, and guess what happens out there? There's some waves, there's some tough stuff that goes on out there. But they got the boat out on the ocean. But what the ones that don't succeed, they never get the boat out of the dock. They have reason after reason after reason not to do it. Build the bridge. Do the work. Do the work. I think about my mom, and I think about this story comes to me, and when I think about this little teapot. Okay, a lady walks in, and there's in this craft shop, and there's this beautiful ornated teapot. And that's my mom. And if you were to say to my mom, my mom has passed, but if you were to ask her about that, what she would say if that teapot could talk? It sounded a lot like my mom. I didn't always look like this. You see, I used to be just this thing of clay, a ball of clay. And can you imagine how painful it was when that potter had me in his hand and he was moving me and working me? How painful it was. It got to the point that I didn't think I was going to survive. But then he took his hands away. And about time I started feeling good again, you know what he did to me? He put me on a spinning wheel. And he started working me. And oh Lord, I just don't know if I can make it. Put me on that spinning wheel. And then when I didn't think I was going to make it, he took me off. I started feeling really good. But guess what he did to me next? He threw me in the fire. Oh my God, he threw me in the fire. Does that sound familiar? Some people? How he breaks us? He puts us in that fire and he keeps on working those impurities and we think we got it made. He takes us out of that fire and, oh man, you guess what? He's not done with us yet. He throws us back in that fire one more time. Then he takes us out and he molds us a little bit more. He puts a little paint here, a little this here. Look at me now. Look at me now. And so you get to build the bridge. You got to do the work. The next thing you got to do, guys, you got to, I always say it like this. I tell my players, just don't quit. Just keep working. If I give you an oak tree and I say cut that oak tree down, how many of you could cut it down with one chop? And they all acknowledge that the way you cut that oak tree down is that you keep on chopping, you keep on working at it. You see, my dad went through this thing. I mean, my mom had an accident, the total loss of car. It was an old car, and they couldn't afford another car. And so here's this guy. He's not a mechanic. The frame is bent on this car. So they dragged that old car to our driveway. And my dad goes out there, and he does something that's really crazy. He starts taking it apart piece by piece. And we were wondering what's going on. People would walk by and they would laugh and they would say, man, that old man's crazy. And we were saying as kids, well, why don't we just get another car? Let's just. And so he, piece by piece, takes that car apart, takes all that stuff off that old frame, brings in another frame, starts putting it back together. Within a month, we're riding in that car. Sustain the effort. Keep working. There are a lot of little stories in that. There's about discipline and integrity and work ethic. Those are things that you learn growing up. And then the thing of can you imagine telling people that you want to move from the projects to own your home, your own home, and you finished, you dropped out of school in the 6th grade. Your wife dropped out of school when she was in the 4th grade. So how are you going to do that? You got 6 children to feed. How are you going to do that? Well, you know what? They didn't listen to that. They didn't listen to that. And when those things would happen, I could hear my mom, and one of the things that she would say, that, and it's a Ray Bowes song, but it says this like this. It says, the ship is battered. The sails are torn. The anchor holds. I fall on my knees to face the raging seas. The anchor holds despite the storm. You know what? They didn't listen to all of that stuff. They just held on to their belief, and they just kept on working at it. And then the last thing is this: you got to finish the job. You got to finish the job. So when you talk about the Harbor House and you talk about these things, that's finish the job. Because see, the result is this: we went from 375 12th Street, the projects, to 1232 Ivy Avenue, the rental property, to 367 Catalpa Avenue, home ownership. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Coach Slade. Again, inspiring, and you know, when you were talking, Coach, I was just thinking about what Maria had gone through when she started Harbor House long ago with just a few participants, and to what it is now. Maria, you probably felt like a teapot many times, many times, but something that you said, Coach, in that you have to ask, what do we do if we don't help them? But with Harbor House, so many people have answered that call, and the answer that they get back is, what would we have done if they didn't help us? Because when you go to Harbor House, you are touched by the participants there. Their drive, their dedication, they have odds against them that we don't even deal with. But they come to you with a hug. Some of them will tackle you and give you a hug, a smile, a kiss, love, and it's what they do for you. So there is a beautiful return. So Coach Slade, thank you so much.